The night air outside the hall hit Catelyn like water. Cold, sharp, honest in a way the feast had never been. It smelled of torches and wet stone and the river's muddy breath. Behind them, the screams in the hall rose and fell like a dying song, punctuated by the harsh twang of crossbows and the wet, intimate sounds of steel finding flesh. Robb Stark moved with the ferocity of a cornered animal, not running so much as dragging the world forward by sheer will. His hand kept Catelyn close, not gentle, not careful. Possessive in the way a son becomes when he realizes the gods are not kind and mothers can be taken. His sword was slick in his grip, and every time torchlight caught it, it shone like a shard of ice. "Hold the line!" Brynden Tully roared, his voice raw enough to scrape stone. He was already carving at Frey men who tried to clog the doorway, keeping it open long enough for the last of their own to spill out. He fought like a man who had spent his life waiting to be useful and found his purpose in the ugliest place imaginable. The courtyard was chaos, but not the helpless chaos Walder Frey had paid for. The Vale had stepped into the moment like a door slammed in a murderer's face. Yohn Royce's knights were where they needed to be, near the Bridgeward Gate, near the stairwells, near the corners where men loved to appear with daggers and confidence. They raised shields and formed a moving wall, the iron rims kissing as they locked together. Crossbow bolts thudded and skittered. One buried itself deep in a shield face, quivering like an angry insect. Another found a gap and a man cried out, sound strangled by helm and pride. Yohn Royce stood just behind the shield wall, bronze armor dulling under soot and torchlight, his posture unhurried as if a storm could be measured. He lifted a horn and blew. The note was not pretty. It was a deep, brutal sound that swallowed fear whole and spat it back as discipline. Vale men answered, shifting, tightening, stepping exactly when they should. The sound rolled through the twins and out over the river like a declaration. The trap had snapped, but the prey had teeth. Lyn Corbray laughed once, short, bright, and leapt down from a stone step into a knot of Frey guards. His blade cut fast and clean. A spear thrust at him, and he turned it aside with the lazy grace of a man accustomed to violence, then opened the spearman's throat as if drawing a ribbon. Blood sprayed across Lyn's crimson cloak and vanished into it. "Back!" Robb shouted, not to his men but to the night itself, as if he could command the world to make room. "To the bridge! Vale! Hold the bridge!" Already holding, a Vale knight snarled, shield raised as bolts stitched the air. Then gray wind came. He burst into the courtyard with Stark men pouring from the stable yard, his great body low, his fur bristling, his eyes bright with that terrible clarity wolves had when they found a scent they hated. Someone had slipped his leash. Someone had understood that a dire wolf was not a pet to be kept outside a hall for manners. He hit the first Frey man he reached like a thrown boulder, jaws closing on a forearm, snapping bone, dragging the screaming man down into mud and torchlight. The sight broke something in the Frey guards. They had planned to shoot nobles like deer at a feast. They had not planned for a wolf in their courtyard. "Gatehouse!" Yohn Royce ordered, voice cutting through everything. Take it now." Vale knights surged toward the stair that led up to the western tower's gatehouse, shields angled, swords tucked close. Crossbow bolts rained down from slits. One knight stumbled, caught himself, kept moving. Another fell hard, helm ringing against stone. Men stepped over him without looking back, because looking back was how you died. Catelyn saw shapes moving along the parapets, Frey men running with torches, likely to signal the other tower, to raise the far portcullis to seal the bridge. The twins was a mouth and Walder Frey was trying to close it. Robb's face was streaked with blood that might have been his, might have been someone else's. His eyes met Catelyn's for a heartbeat, and she saw a question there that had no clean answer. How many are dying inside? How many can we save? How much do I sacrifice to keep you breathing? She wanted to tell him to run. She wanted to tell him to burn the twins to the ground and let the river carry away every Frey that remained. She wanted to tell him she could not bear another loss. Not after Ned. Not after what the gods had stolen. But Robb was a king. Kings did not get to choose simple mercies. He tore his gaze away and shouted, "Yon, if we take the gatehouse, we take the bridge," Yon finished, as if the thought had already lived in his skull for years. A bolt hissed past and struck the stone beside Caitlyn's head, splintering into her cloak. She flinched, rage making her throat burn. "Move," Robb growled, and hauled her toward the shadow of a buttress where the shield wall could cover them. The courtyard filled with the sound of steel. Frey men charged. Vale shields shoved them back. Grey wind snarled and tore at legs. Somewhere above, the crossbows kept singing their ugly song. And through it all, the Vale's horn sounded again. Steady, brutal, refusing to let the night become a slaughterhouse as planned. The bridge was narrower than Caitlyn remembered, or perhaps fear had narrowed it. Stones slick with rain and spilled wine turned treacherous under boots. The river below roared in the dark, hungry and indifferent, carrying away every promise men ever made. Frey men were already at the winch, hands on iron, torches flaring as they shouted to one another. They meant to drop the portcullis and sever the bridge, to trap Wolf and Falcon on the western side while the eastern tower became a fortress of crossbows and laughter. Yon Royce saw it and did not hesitate. "Forward!" he barked, and the Vale's shield wall rolled onto the bridge like a moving cliff. Bolts hammered into shields with jolting force. A man screamed as a shaft found his thigh. Another bolt struck a helm and glanced away with a scream of metal, leaving the knight staggering but alive. Men behind him pressed forward anyway, because the wall could not break without breaking all of them. Robb pushed in behind the shields, grey wind snarling at his side. The direwolf's paws skidded on wet stone. He hated the bridge. He hated the narrowness, the lack of earth, the way the river's smell rose like rot from beneath. But his hatred did not slow him. It sharpened him. Brynden Tully reached the winch line first, because Brynden always arrived at the worst place before anyone else. A Frey captain barreled into him with a sword raised, eyes wide with frantic resolve. They met in a clash that rang against the bridge like a bell. Brynden's blade moved with ugly efficiency, parrying, stepping, cutting low. The Frey captain tried to force him back with sheer weight. Brynden answered by biting the man's ear clean off and headbutting him into the stone. "Now," Brynden snarled, spitting blood, "try hearing me when I say die." He drove his sword up beneath the captain's ribs. The man made a choking sound and collapsed, sliding down Brynden's blade as if the steel were a ladder to hell. Robb reached the winch as two Frey men tried to drag the lever down. He hit the first with the flat of his blade across the mouth, teeth scattering like dice. The second turned with a dagger and a prayer. Grey wind tore his throat out before the dagger ever found skin. Caitlyn stumbled behind, the bridge pitching beneath her as bodies fell and men shoved. She saw a boy, no older than Bran, raise a crossbow near a window slit. His hands shook. He fired blindly, bolt disappearing into the crush. A heartbeat later, a Vale spear took him in the chest, and he toppled backward out of sight. The boy's death felt like another sin pressed onto a ledger already too full. "Portcullis!" Yon shouted, pointing up. Windows! Crossbowmen fired from the gatehouse above the western tower, bolts angling down into the bridge's throat. Vale men raised shields higher. The wall slowed, threatened to stall beneath that relentless hail. Lyn Corbray did not slow. He sprinted up the stairway that hugged the tower's inner wall, taking steps. 2 at a time, his crimson cloak snapping behind him like blood in the wind. A Frey guard met him at the landing with a spear. Lyn knocked it aside, sliced the man's knee open, then shoved him over the parapet. The guard fell soundlessly into the river's roar. "Lyn!" Robb shouted, voice rough. "Take the gatehouse! Stop the bolts!" Lyn did not answer. He didn't need to. His grin, flashed over his shoulder, was enough. He was a man who had been waiting for a night like this all his life. Yon Royce climbed onto the bridge's low wall for a heartbeat, steady as a statue, then raised his arm and pointed. "Archers!" he roared to Vale bowmen behind the shield wall. "There!" A volley went up, arrows hissing into darkness. Some struck stone, snapping. Some found windows. A crossbowman screamed. The sound cut short. The bolt hail faltered, then thinned. Robb seized the moment. "Push!" he bellowed. "Push them back!" The shield wall surged. Frey men at the winch stumbled backward, slipping on blood. One fell to his knees and tried to crawl away, hands slick. A Vale knight's sword ended him with a single downward chop. Catelyn saw torches moving on the eastern tower's parapet signals. She saw a second group of Freys gathering, spears ready, waiting for the portcullis to drop and deliver them the advantage. But the portcullis did not drop. Instead, above them, Lyn Corbray reached the gatehouse, and the crossbows stopped singing. A moment later, a Frey man toppled out of the gatehouse window, arms flailing, and hit the bridge stone with a crack that made Catelyn's stomach lurch. Lyn's voice echoed down from above, delighted and furious. "Open it," he shouted. "Open it and let them see how guests leave." Robb's face twisted into something between a smile and a snarl. "Do it," he told Jon. Jon nodded once, and his men moved on the winch like they had trained for it all their lives. The iron teeth of the portcullis began to rise, and with it rose a new truth that Walder Frey had not paid enough to kill. The twins could be taken. They could have run. They should have run. Every sensible instinct screamed that survival meant putting as much river and darkness between themselves and the twins as possible. Robb Stark did not run. He stared at the hall's doorway, at the flickering torchlight and the blur of movement within, and his eyes hardened into something older than his years. The Red Wedding had not been meant to be survived. Surviving it meant the knives were still in the room, still in the hands that had paid for them, still waiting for another chance. If they fled, Walder Frey would claim victory anyway. He would send ravens with lies. He would tell the realm the young wolf had died like a dog in his halls, and no one would be able to prove otherwise. The war would be strangled by rumor even if it escaped by bridge. Robb looked at Jon Royce, rain and blood dripping from his hair. "We take the hall," he said, voice hoarse. "We take Walder. We take hostages. Or this night will chase us forever." Jon did not blink. "Then we take it," he replied, as if castles were simply tasks to be done. The shield wall pivoted, Vale knights moving into the hall's mouth in disciplined steps. The hall stank of blood and spilled wine and hot fat that had been trampled into the rushes. The torches made everything gleam. Steel, puddles, eyes gone glassy. Bodies lay in heaps where nobles had been laughing minutes before. Catelyn's gaze caught on a woman's arm stretched across a toppled bench, bracelets still on her wrist, fingers curled as if reaching for something that wasn't there. She did not let herself look at the face. Crossbow bolts still lay scattered like broken teeth. The musicians' gallery above was a nest of murder, but Lyn Corbray had already begun to rip it apart. He stormed the stair with 3 Vale men behind him, his blade flashing. A crossbowman tried to reload, hands shaking so hard the bolt slipped. Lyn kicked the crossbow away, grabbed the man by the collar, and slammed him into the wall hard enough to make his skull ring. "Play?" Lyn hissed in his ear, and then cut him down. Vale knights climbed with shields raised, catching the last desperate shots. One bolt punched into a shield and stuck there, quivering, as if the weapon itself refused to leave. Another bolt struck a man's shoulder. The knight grunted, kept climbing, blood running in a thin line down his arm. The Vale moved like a machine with a single purpose. Stop the bolts, stop the slaughter, turn the hall from a trap into a battlefield where courage mattered. Robb advanced below them, gray wind prowling at his side, hackles raised. Frey men tried to form ranks near the high table, but their courage was made of borrowed certainty, and borrowed certainty crumbled when the prey began to bite back. A Frey son, Catelyn could not tell which, shouted for men to hold, to stand, to remember their promises of gold. A northern axe split his jaw and ended the speech midword. "Doors!" Brynden Tully barked, voice echoing off stone. "Don't let them slip out!" Vale knights broke off in pairs, sprinting to side exits, slamming them shut, bracing them with benches and corpses alike. It was ugly. It was necessary. Catelyn moved behind Robb, her hand on his cloak for balance, her eyes scanning the hall with the cold vigilance of a mother who had learned to count threats the way other women counted stitches. Her heart lurched when she saw the place where Edmure Tully had been standing. Empty now. Rosalind Frey was gone as well, her pale veil nowhere in sight. They have him, Catelyn thought, and fury flooded her so fast it felt like drowning. Walder Frey's high chair was still there, but Walder himself had retreated behind guards, face twisted with rage and fear. He bellowed orders, voice cracking, trying to control the chaos he had bought and lost. His sons clustered near him, blades drawn, eyes darting. Robb's gaze locked onto him like a wolf locking onto prey. "Walder!" Robb shouted. "You broke guest right." Walder's voice came back shrill. "You broke your oath," he screeched. "You shamed me. You!" "Shut him up," Lyn Corbray called down from the gallery, blood on his cheek and joy in his eyes. "He's ruining the music." A Frey guard lunged at Robb with a spear. Grey wind snapped, caught the shaft, yanked it sideways. Robb stepped in and cut the guard down with a brutal efficiency that made Catelyn's stomach twist and her pride flare at once. Jon Royce reached the center of the hall and raised his blade. Not high, not theatrical, just enough to draw every eye. "Lay down your weapons," he commanded, voice like stone. "Now, or die." For a heartbeat, the Frey men hesitated, trapped between fear of their lord and fear of the steel in front of them. Then a door on the far side burst open and a Frey man screamed, "The bridge! They have the bridge!" Panic spread faster than fire. Men began to drop weapons, hands rising. Others turned and ran, only to slam into braced doors and veil steel. Walder Frey's face contorted. He tried to retreat further, to vanish into his own maze of stone. Robb Stark stepped forward through blood and broken benches, eyes fixed, sword steady. "Not tonight," Robb said, voice low enough that only those closest heard it. "Not again." They found him where old men always tried to hide when their schemes failed, behind younger men. Walder Frey's guards formed a trembling ring around him near the high table, blades up, eyes darting. They were not warriors. They were men who had been told the slaughter would be easy, that the wolves would die while drunk and laughing, that the king would be a corpse before he knew he was being hunted. Now the king was walking toward them with a wolf at his side and veil steel at his back. "Hold!" One guard shouted, voice cracking. Robb did not slow. "Move," he said, and there was a quiet certainty in it that made the guard's courage break. The man stepped back, then another. The ring opened like rotted wood giving way. Walder tried to rise from his chair, hands shaking, mouth working. "You," he wheezed. "You can't. This is my mother's blood on your floor," Robb said, and the words came like ice. "This is my men's blood. This is your broken guest right." Walder's face went purple. "You broke your oath," he shrieked. "You!" A Vale Knight grabbed Walder by the shoulder and yanked him forward. Walder stumbled, fur cloak sliding off, revealing the thin, trembling man beneath. He looked suddenly small, as if the hall had swallowed his power and left him naked. Robb's sword kissed Walder's throat. Not cutting yet, just promising. Catelyn stepped forward, shaking so hard she could barely keep her voice steady. "Where is Edmure?" she demanded. "Where is my brother?" Walder's eyes darted, wild. "Bedding," he croaked and tried to smile. "A wedding needs bedding. He's. "Liar," Lyn Corbray said softly, and the word was almost affectionate. He leaned on his blood-smeared blade like a man enjoying theater. "He's in a tower, Lady Stark. They always put the valuable pieces in towers." Anya Waynwood's gaze was cold, fixed on Walder. "You murdered under guest right," she said. "Do you understand what you have done?" Walder's mouth worked. He swallowed, eyes flicking to his bound sons. Some knelt with hands tied, faces white. Others lay dead in the rushes, eyes staring at nothing. "I did what I had to," Walder rasped. "A man must protect his house." Jon Royce stepped close, bronze armor flecked with blood. "You did not protect," he said. "You prostituted your house to treachery." Walder flinched as if struck. Robb's voice dropped, and it made the hall quiet in a way shouting never could. "How many did you plan to kill?" he asked. "All of us? Every lord? Every man who trusted your bread?" Walder licked his lips, eyes darting. "You were," he whispered. "You were supposed to die. That was..." He swallowed again, and then bitterness surged. "That was the agreement." Catelyn felt something inside her go cold and sharp. "Agreement," she repeated. "With who?" Walder's eyes flicked toward the shadows where Roose Bolton had been sitting earlier. But Roose Bolton was no longer there. Catelyn's stomach dropped. The hall suddenly felt too large, too full of places for a snake to slip away. Robb saw it too. His jaw tightened. "Where is Roose Bolton?" he asked, voice like a drawn blade. No one answered at first. Frey men stared at the floor. Vale knights glanced toward the doors, calculating. Lyn Corbray's smile thinned. Jon Royce spoke quietly, grim. "Gone," he said. "Or trying to be." Robb's sword pressed a fraction harder into Walder's throat, drawing a thin red line. Walder squeaked, eyes bulging. "You listen," Robb said, voice trembling with restrained fury. "You will order your men to stand down. You will open every door. You will tell me where my uncle is. If you lie, I will cut your throat here and feed your sons to Grey Wind." Walder's breath hitched. His gaze flicked to the direwolf, who stared back with patient hunger. Walder's courage, built on the certainty of a planned slaughter, finally broke. He nodded rapidly, chin trembling against Robb's steel. "Tower," he rasped. "East Tower. He's there. Please, please." Catelyn's eyes burned. She wanted to see Walder dead. She wanted to see every Frey banner burned. But Edmure's name dragged her back from the cliff edge. Robb glanced at Jon Royce. "Hold him," Robb ordered. Jon nodded once, and Vale hands tightened on Walder, yanking him away from the high table like a sack of bones. Walder's fur cloak trailed behind him, dragging through blood. Robb turned, voice sharp. "Brynden, take men. Get Edmure." "I'm already moving," Brynden growled, wiping his blade on a dead man's cloak. Lyn Corbray's eyes gleamed. "I'll come," he said, and the joy in his voice made Catelyn shiver. Robb looked at his mother, eyes fierce. "Stay with the Vale," he told her. Catelyn wanted to argue. She wanted to go with them to see Edmure with her own eyes. But she saw the way Robb's hand shook slightly when it wasn't holding her. She saw the way he needed her alive more than he needed her brave. She nodded once, and Robb turned and ran toward the East Tower, wolf and falcon at his heels. Behind them, Walder Frey was dragged across his own hall, and the twins, for the first time in its long, ugly history, began to feel fear. The East Tower felt different from the hall. Quiet, tighter, as if stone itself conspired to keep secrets. The corridors smelled of damp and old smoke. Torches guttered in wall brackets, their flames bending as drafts slid through cracks like whispered prayers. Brynden Tully moved ahead with the grim certainty of a man who had hunted bandits in worse places. He did not ask directions. He followed sound, muffled sobs, hurried footsteps, the faint scrape of iron on stone. Robb stalked behind him, Grey Wind padding low, silent, the direwolf's presence making the narrow passage feel like a throat about to bite. They found the chamber door barred from within. Brynden's shoulder hit it once, twice. The third time it cracked open with splintering. Inside, lantern light revealed Edmure Tully bound to a chair, wrists tied so tightly his hands had gone pale. Blood smeared his cheek where someone had struck him. His eyes were wide, panicked, and furious, alive in the way only Tully's stubbornness could be. Rosalind Frey stood beside him in a pale gown, veil torn, cheeks wet with tears. She reached for Edmure with shaking hands, trying to wipe blood away, whispering something desperate and soft. The sight, this frightened girl trapped in a cage built by men, hit Catelyn's heart even at a distance, though she was not there to see it. It would have, because she knew what it was to be used. Black Walder Frey, sharp-faced and cruel-eyed, held a dagger at Edmure's throat. Lothar Frey stood near the door with a crossbow half-raised, his expression composed in a way that made him look more dangerous than any screaming guard. They all froze at the crash. Then Lothar's crossbow lifted. Grey wind lunged. The dire wolf hit the chamber like a storm, teeth bared, and the space suddenly felt too small for human schemes. Lothar tried to fire. The bolt went wide, thudding into stone. Grey wind slammed into him, jaws closing on his forearm, snapping bone with a sound that made Rosalind scream. Lothar went down hard, crossbow clattering across the floor. Black Walder jerked the dagger tighter against Edmure's throat. "Back!" he snarled, eyes darting. "Back or he dies." Robb did not stop moving. "He dies either way," Robb said, and his voice was so cold it made the lantern flame seem warm. "The difference is whether you die quick or slow." Brynden stepped forward, sword raised, not rushing, never rushing, because a hostage's life hung on rhythm as much as steel. "Black Walder," he said, and his tone carried an old contempt. "You want to be remembered? This is how you're remembered." Black Walder's mouth twisted. "Your nephew shamed my house," he spat. He trusted your bread," Brynden snapped, and the anger in him finally cracked through his usual dryness. "And you answered with bolts," Rosalind sobbed, shaking her head. "I didn't know," she whispered, voice breaking. "I didn't know, I swear." Black Walder's dagger trembled, not with fear but with fury. "Shut up," he hissed. D at her, and for a heartbeat his attention flicked away. That was all Lyn Corbray needed. He appeared in the doorway like a red ghost, blade flashing. He did not charge Black Walder. He threw a dagger, quick, practiced, ugly. The knife buried itself in Black Walder's thigh. Black Walder screamed, his grip loosening for an instant. Brynden moved. His sword swept in a flat arc, smashing Black Walder's wrist hard enough to make bone crack. The dagger fell. Edmure sucked in air like a drowning man breaking surface. Robb was on Black Walder before the man could recover. He drove his sword through Black Walder's shoulder and pinned him against the wall, close enough that their faces were nearly touching. "Guessed right," Robb hissed, and the words sounded like a curse. "Say it." Black Walder spat blood. "Wolf." Robb ripped the blade free and slammed the man to the floor with his boot. "Bind him," Robb ordered, voice shaking now, not from fear but from the strain of not becoming the monster he wanted to be. Brynden cut Edmure's ropes with quick strokes. "You're alive," he growled, as if that were both greeting and reprimand. Edmure staggered up, rubbing his wrists, eyes blazing. "Alive," he snarled. "And I'm going to." Robb grabbed him by the shoulder, hard. "Not now," Robb said. "We live first. We punish after." Edmure's gaze flicked to Rosalind, who stood trembling, hands clasped in front of her as if praying. She looked at him with raw fear, waiting for hatred. Edmure's jaw clenched. "Did you know?" he demanded. Rosalind shook her head violently. "No," she whispered. "I swear on the seven. Her voice broke. "I was told to smile." Edmure stared at her for a long moment, and then something like disgust flickered. Not at her, but at the men who had used her as bait. "Get her out," Edmure said, voice rough. Robb's eyes narrowed. "She's a Frey. She's a girl," Edmure snapped back, and for the first time that night, the young lord's stubborn heart sounded like his father's. "And she didn't pull the string." Robb hesitated, then nodded once. "Fine," he said, "but she stays under guard." Lyn Corbray smiled, pleased by the mercy as if it were another kind of cruelty. "Mercy makes better stories," he murmured. Grey Wind still had Lothar pinned, teeth at his throat, growling low. Lothar's face was gray with pain and terror. Robb looked down at him, eyes cold. "Call your men off," he said, "or the wolf eats." Lothar tried to speak, choked instead. Grey Wind's growl deepened. Lothar nodded frantically, and in that narrow stone chamber, the red wedding finally began to die. Dawn came pale and reluctant, as if the sun did not want to look at what men had done in the night. Mist rose from the river in thin sheets, curling around the twin stones like breath from a dying mouth. The courtyard was littered with the evidence of broken oaths. Bodies covered in cloaks, blood scrubbed into dark stains that would never truly leave. Men moved quietly now, voices low, as if speaking too loudly might wake the dead. Robb Stark stood on the bridge with his sword down at his side, rainwater dripping from his hair. He stared at the river as if it might offer answers. Grey Wind sat nearby, panting, muzzle-stained. The direwolf's eyes followed every movement, not trusting peace because peace had tried to kill them. Catelyn stood behind Robb, wrapped in a cloak someone had thrown around her when the night finally slowed. She felt older than she had ever felt. She felt like a woman carved hollow by grief and held upright by stubbornness alone. Jon Royce had already turned victory into order. Vale men guarded the gatehouse and the winch. Archers watched the parapets. Frey survivors were lined in the courtyard under spear points, hands bound, faces gray. Some stared forward with empty eyes. Others sobbed. A few, too proud, too foolish, glared as if hatred could turn time backward. Walder Frey knelt among them, bound, hair disheveled, face streaked with grime and humiliation. The old man looked smaller now, as if the night had shrunk him. His eyes still darted, still counted, still searched for leverage like a starving rat searching for crumbs. Anya Waynwood stood by a table where maesters and scribes wrote, their quills scratching steadily. She had insisted on it, records, names, witness statements, the methodical work of making sure the realm could not be lied to again. It was a strange kind of weapon, quieter than swords, but just as sharp. Brynden Tully paced like a caged wolf, sword in hand, blood dried dark along its edge. Edmure stood nearby with a bandage wrapped around his wrist where rope had bitten skin raw. His eyes burned with fury that had nowhere to go but outward. Robb turned at last, facing the courtyard, the captives, the evidence. The young king drew in a breath that trembled slightly. Walder Frey, Robb said, voice carrying. You welcomed us under guest right. Walder licked his lips. You broke, he rasped. Robb cut him off. You fed us, Robb continued, ignoring the old man. You gave wine, you gave vows, and you answered with crossbows. A murmur ran through the gathered men. Northmen, Riverlords, Vale Knights. Anger sharpened into something like unity. Robb's gaze swept across the Frey captives. You murdered men who trusted you, he said. You murdered women. You murdered those who came here to mend oaths. There is no forgiveness for that. Not in the north. Not in the Riverlands. Not in the Vale. Walder's voice rose, shrill with desperation. It was politics, he screeched. It was. Jon Royce stepped forward, and his calm made the old man's shriek sound pathetic. Politics does not excuse sacrilege, Jon said. You did not merely choose a side. You desecrated law older than kings. Anya Waynwood's quill scratched as she spoke, as if the words themselves were being nailed to parchment. Names, she said softly. We will have every name. Every man who pulled a string. Every man who barred a door. Edmure Tully surged forward, trembling. Black Walder, he spat. Lothar, Ryman, the ones who... Black Walder lives, Brynden said grimly. For now, he's in chains. Edmure's face twisted, satisfaction and hatred fighting. For now, he echoed. Robb lifted his hand. We do this properly, he said, voice tight. Not like them. Not in frenzy. Catelyn wanted to laugh at the word properly. Properly had not saved Daisy Mormont. Properly had not saved the men who had died choking on wine and bolts. Properly had not stopped Walder Frey from turning a wedding into a slaughter. Yet she understood what Robb was doing. A king could not become his enemy. Not fully. Not if he wanted the realm to believe in him when fear faded. Robb's eyes found his mother. For a moment, his face softened, pain showing through the king's mask. Then it hardened again. "Walder Frey," Robb said, "you will remain in chains. You will order your house to stand down. Your sons will send ravens commanding every Frey banner to lay down arms, or I will execute you in your courtyard at noon and hang your heirs in your place." Walder's eyes widened, breath hissing. "And you," Robb said, turning to the captives, "will be judged by your part in this. Those who pulled triggers die. Those who barred doors die. Those who planned." His gaze slid to Edmure. "And we keep some alive." Edmure stiffened. "Alive? Hostages," Robb said. "Not because I trust Freys, but because I trust fear." His eyes narrowed. "Walder Frey's house will surrender fully, or his heirs will die one by one." Catelyn felt a chill at the cold practicality. Robb was learning the language of Tywin Lannister. The difference was that Robb still hated it. Brynden leaned in, knife pointing at the map's western edge. "Tywin will come," he said. "He can't let you hold this crossing. He can't let this story spread without answer." "And Roose Bolton?" Anya asked softly. The chamber went quiet. The empty space where Roose should have been felt like a missing tooth. "He's gone," Robb said, and there was anger in it now, sharp and personal. "He slipped out during the fighting, took his men, left no word. Or left plenty of word," Lynn Corbray murmured, eyes gleaming. "Just not for us." Jon Royce's jaw tightened. "We should treat him as enemy until proven otherwise," he said. Robb's hand clenched on the table edge. "I cannot declare him traitor without proof," he said, though the words sounded like he hated them. "Not yet. If I do, I split the north, and Tywin wins without swinging a sword." Catelyn watched her son and Dee felt something twist inside her. Pride and fear braided together. Ned would have demanded proof even as the knife entered his ribs. Robb was doing the same because he had been raised by honor in a world that rewarded treachery. Anya Wainwood's voice was calm, relentless. "Then we find proof," she said. "Vale riders can hunt. Vale eyes can watch. We will not let another knife hide in our shadow." Robb nodded once, decisive. "We hold the twins," he said. "We send ravens. We punish publicly. And then we move." "Where?" Edmure demanded, hungry for action. Robb's gaze dropped to the map, to the river veins feeding the realm. "Harrenhal," he said, "or the roads that feed it. If Tywin comes east, we bleed him. If he stays west, we starve him." His eyes lifted, wolf-bright. "And if he brings the Tyrells, we make them regret choosing the wrong war." Grey Wind's ears pricked at the shift in tone, as if the direwolf understood the language of purpose. Outside, the river kept running beneath the bridge they now held. For the first time since Ned Stark had gone south, the North's war felt like it had direction again. Hard, brutal direction, paid for in blood on a wedding floor. In King's Landing, the sun rose over a city that did not deserve dawn. Heat settled into the streets even in early morning, clinging to stone and sweat and the stink of too many lives pressed together. Ravens beat their wings above the red keep like omens that had learned to fly. Tywin Lannister read the message once, then again, and crushed the parchment in his fist until wax and paper tore. He did not shout. Tywin Lannister did not waste sound when silence could do more damage. Cersei stood across the table, pale, lips tight. "Say it," she demanded, voice trembling with rage. "Say you're wrong." Varys's hands folded into his sleeves, his eyes soft with careful concern. "The message is from multiple sources," he said gently, "and from the twins' own ravens, intercepted and persuaded." Cersei's face tightened. "Persuaded?" she spat, as if the word was poison. Petyr Baelish leaned back slightly, fingers steepled, smile thin and bright in the morning light. "It appears," he said, "that the young wolf did not die on schedule." Cersei rounded on him. "This is your doing," she hissed. "You promised me the Vale would be quiet. You promised Lisa would. I promised you Lisa Arryn would not ride. Petyr corrected smoothly. And she did not. Tywin's gaze snapped to him, cold. Speak plainly, Tywin ordered. Petyr's smile did not falter. The Lord's declarant removed her from power, he said. They declared counsel in Lord Robert's name. They rode. And now the twins is in chaos. His eyes glinted. Walder Frey tried his trick anyway. He failed. Grand Maester Pycelle made a small, horrified noise. Guessed right, he murmured, as if the gods might strike him for merely hearing the phrase. Tywin's voice was low and lethal. How many died? He asked. Varys hesitated, then spoke softly. Many, he said, but not the ones you intended. Robb Stark lives. Catelyn Stark lives. Brynden Tully lives. Edmure Tully lives. His eyes flicked to Tywin. And Walder Frey is in chains. Cersei's breath hitched. Chains? She repeated, as if the concept was absurd. Tywin's jaw worked once. Then Frey is useless, he said. Not entirely, Petyr murmured. A chained man can still be traded, or executed. Either makes a story. Cersei slammed her palm on the table. Stories, she spat. This is a war. Tywin raised a hand and Cersei fell silent. Not because she agreed, but because she had been trained since girlhood to recognize her father's authority like a collar. Tywin looked around the chamber, eyes sharp. The purpose of the twins was simple, he said. End the war in the Riverlands by removing its heart. His gaze hardened. That purpose remains. Varys's voice was cautious. You cannot attempt the same method twice, he said. The realm will watch now. The gods will watch. The Riverlands will. I do not care who watches, Tywin cut in. I care who wins. Cersei's eyes flashed. We should kill Sansa, she said suddenly, vicious. Send her head north. Itty Stark choke on it. Varys's expression tightened with something like sorrow. That would make her a martyr, he said, voice gentle. And martyrs are inconvenient. Tywin ignored them both. He turned to the map table, fingers uncrushing the ravaged parchment as if pulling out its bones. If Robb Stark holds the twins, he said, he holds the crossing. He holds supply lines. He holds a symbol of betrayal that will inflame the Riverlands against us. And the Vale? Cersei demanded, voice sharp again. What of the Vale? Tywin's eyes narrowed. The Vale must be neutralized, he said. Petyr Baelish's smile warmed by a fraction, as if he had been waiting for the words. I can help, he offered softly. Tywin's gaze stayed on him. You will, Tywin said, and it was not a request. You will go to the Vale. You will restore it to stillness. By marriage, by gold, by whatever method you prefer. His voice turned colder. And if you fail, Petyr Baelish, I will find a method for you. Petyr bowed his head, smile fixed. As you command, he said, and behind his eyes something quick and hungry moved. Tywin turned back to the map. Send ravens to the Westerlands, he ordered. Summon Ser Adam Marbrand. Summon Gregor Clegane if he still breathes. Bring men. Bring siege engines. The twins will be taken back or burned to river stones. Cersei's nails dug into her palm. And if we cannot? Tywin looked at her as if she were a child again. Then we remove the north another way, he said. The war does not end because a feast goes wrong. Outside, the city kept sweating beneath sun. Inside, the Red Keep began to move like a machine, grinding toward another attempt to crush a wolf that refused to die. Lysa Arryn had always believed the Vale's height made it safe. Confined at the gates of the moon, she learned the truth. Height did not stop wolves from howling. It only made the echoes sharper. The chamber they kept her in was not a dungeon, not in the way men spoke of dungeons in tavern tales. It had a bed, a table, a candle. It had a window barred with iron, and beyond the bars the mountains rose indifferent and bright, wearing their snow like crowns. The air smelled of stone and wax, and every draft made the candle flame tremble as if frightened. Lysa sat with a letter in her hand. The wax seal was a mockingbird, red as a fresh wound. Petyr's seal. Her fingers shook as she broke it, though she had already broken it a dozen times in her mind. The words inside were familiar before she read them, because Petyr Baelish always wrote the same song. Safety, loyalty, rescue, love disguised as cleverness. He had heard of the council. He had heard of the Vale riding. He had heard of the twins, of betrayal turned to battle, of Walder Frey in chains, of the young wolf alive. And he wrote in smooth ink that chaos was opportunity. I can come, his letter promised. I can restore you. I can bring your son safety. I can make them regret touching what is yours. Lisa pressed the parchment to her chest as if it were a hand on her heart. Tears spilled down her face, hot and humiliating. She did not know if she wept because she missed power, because she missed the illusion of control, or because someone finally spoke to her like she mattered. Maester Coleman hovered near the door, hands clasped, eyes full of uneasy pity. "My lady," he said quietly, "you must eat. I must see my son," Lisa whispered, voice cracking. "I must, Robert." From the next room came a faint cry. Robert Arryn's voice, thin and scared. The sound sliced through her like a knife. She surged to her feet, stumbling toward the door. The door did not open. Outside, guards stood with spears. Anya Wainwood's voice drifted calm as winter. "Lord Robert Arryn is safe," she said. "He rests. He needs me." Lisa screamed, slamming her fist against the wood. Pain flared, sharp. "He needs his mother," Nestor Royce answered, his tone weary rather than cruel. "He needed his mother not to drag him toward the moon door," he said. "He needed his mother not to break into madness with a knife in her hand." Lisa's breath hitched. "I was protecting him," she whispered. "You were strangling him," Anya said softly. "With love." Lisa's knees buckled. She slid down the door, clutching Petyr's letter like a lifeline. She hated them. She hated their calm righteousness. She hated that they were probably right. But hatred did not warm a bed at night. Hatred did not whisper promises. Hatred did not look at her like she was a woman worth saving. Petyr had always looked at her that way, or seemed to. She wiped her face with shaking hands and stared at the mockingbird seal again. The bird was small, clever, harmless looking. It was also a liar. Could she trust him? Could she trust anyone? Her mind returned, unbidden, to the night Jon Arryn had died. The sweet smell of the cup, the way his lips had turned blue, the way she had told herself it was for Robert. Now Robert was safe without her. Now her lords rode without her. Now the realm shifted without her permission. And in King's Landing, Petyr Baelish smiled his narrow smile and moved pieces on a board she no longer controlled. Lisa pressed the letter to her lips and whispered, "Come," as if the word could travel on wind. Outside her door, Anya Wainwood's footsteps moved away, steady and unhurried. The Vale had chosen its course. Lisa Arryn, trapped in stone and regret, began to wonder what she would choose when Petyr finally arrived. If he arrived, not as a rescuer, but as another kind of jailer with softer hands. By the second night, the twins felt less like a trap and more like a wound being stitched. They held the bridge. They held the gatehouse. Walder Frey remained in chains. His sons watched, his banners stripped from parapets and replaced by wolf and falcon. But holding stone was not the same as holding the war. Ravens flew from every tower carrying versions of the truth, and every version became a weapon. In the council chamber, the air was thick with smoke and damp wool. A map lay across the table, pinned with knives and coins, rivers marked by steel points, armies represented by copper, futures weighed by silver. Grey wind lay at Robb's feet, head up, eyes following every movement. Even resting, the dire wolf looked ready to kill. Edmure Tully stabbed a finger at the map, fury making him clumsy. "We should hang them all," he snarled. "Every Frey man with blood on his hands. Burn the towers. Tear the bridge down and let the river swallow it." "And then what?" Brynden Tully asked, voice flat. "You drown your own advantage out of spite?" Edmure's face flushed. It's not spite, he snapped. It's justice. It's both, Catelyn murmured, and her voice surprised them all. She had been quiet, watching, listening, holding herself together with habit. Now the words slipped out like a splinter finally pulled free. And justice does not always serve the living. Edmure's eyes flicked to her, pained. They tried to kill you, he said. They killed men who loved us, Catelyn replied, and the words tasted like ash. Robb lifted a hand, ending the argument before it could become another fracture. We will punish, he said, but we punish with purpose. His eyes slid to Yohn Royce. Tell them. Yohn Royce leaned over the map, gauntlet finger tapping the river crossing. The Twins is a choke point, he said. It feeds armies, controls movement. If we burn it, we give that advantage back to Tywin Lannister. His gaze lifted, steady. We hold it. We garrison it. We use it.
Anya Vane would noidit.
And we use the story, she added. We send ravens to every lord in the Riverlands, every lord in the Vale, every lord who pretends to be neutral. We name the men who broke guest right. We publish witness statements. Her eyes hardened. We make it impossible to call this anything but treason and sacrilege. Lyn Corbray lounged near the wall, cleaning his blade as if the steel were a pet. And we hang a few, he said lightly. People like hanging. It gives them something simple to understand. Robb's mouth tightened at Lyn's casual cruelty, but he did not dismiss it. War made use of ugly truths. We hang those who fired, Robb decided. Those who barred doors. Those who planned. His gaze slid to Edmure. And we keep some alive. Edmure stiffened. Alive? Hostages, Robb said. Not because I trust Freys, but because I trust fear. His eyes narrowed. Walder Frey's house will surrender fully, or his heirs will die one by one. Catelyn felt a chill at the cold practicality. Robb was learning the language of Tywin Lannister. The difference was that Robb still hated it. Brynden leaned in, knife pointing at the map's western edge. Tywin will come, he said. He can't let you hold this crossing. He can't let this story spread without answer. And Roose Bolton? Anya asked softly. The chamber went quiet. The empty space where Roose should have been felt like a missing tooth. He's gone, Robb said, and there was anger in it now, sharp and personal. He slipped out during the fighting, took his men, left no word, or left plenty of word. Lyn Corbray murmured, eyes gleaming. Just not for us. Yohn Royce's jaw tightened. We should treat him as enemy until proven otherwise, he said. Robb's hand clenched on the table edge. I cannot declare him traitor without proof, he said, though the words sounded like he hated them. Not yet. If I do, I split the north, and Tywin wins without swinging a sword. Catelyn watched her son and felt something twist inside her. Pride and fear braided together. Ned would have demanded proof even as the knife entered his ribs. Robb was doing the same because he had been raised by honor in a world that rewarded treachery. Anya Waynwood's voice was calm, relentless. Then we find proof, she said. Vale riders can hunt. Vale eyes can watch. We will not let another knife hide in our shadow. Robb nodded once, decisive. We hold the Twins, he said. We send ravens. We punish publicly. And then we move. Where? Edmure demanded, hungry for action. Robb's gaze dropped to the map, to the river veins feeding the realm. Harrenhal, he said, or the roads that feed it. If Tywin comes east, we bleed him. If he stays west, we starve him. His eyes lifted, wolf-bright. And if he brings the Tyrells, we make them regret choosing the wrong war. Grey Wind's ears pricked at the shift in tone, as if the direwolf understood the language of purpose. Outside, the river kept running beneath the bridge they now held. For the first time since Ned Stark had gone south, the North's war felt like it had direction again. Hard, brutal direction, paid for in blood on a wedding floor. The executions were quick, not merciful. Nothing about hanging was merciful, but quick enough that the Twins could not pretend they had time to bargain. Frey men who had fired bolts, who had barred doors, who had laughed while guests died, were marched into the courtyard beneath pale morning and forced onto rough wooden platforms. The ropes tightened, the bodies kicked, then they stilled, swaying slightly in the river breeze like ugly wind chimes. Robb Stark watched without flinching, and Catelyn hated that her son had learned how. She stood beside him, hood up, face cold, because if she let herself weep, she feared she would never stop. Walder Frey was made to watch too, bound and guarded on a balcony. His eyes glittered with hatred and helpless calculation. He still looked for leverage, even as his men swung below. He still searched for some bargain that could turn dishonor into profit. There was none. When it was done, Robb turned away from the gallows and looked out over the bridge. The river ran beneath it as it always had, uncaring, carrying away what it carried. But the bridge itself now held banners that did not belong to Frey arrogance. Dire wolves and falcons hung heavy in the damp, cloth darkened by rain, symbols weighted by survival. Anya Waynwood stood near the bridge's entrance with scribes and guards, watching the host prepare to move. She had insisted on recording everything. Names, crimes, witnesses, the exact words Robb spoke when he declared guest right broken. The realm would hear. The realm would be forced to choose how to answer. Jon Royce mounted his horse with the steady gravity of a man who did not believe in endings. Vale heavy cavalry formed behind him, steel quiet, horses snorting, men adjusting straps. They had lost some in the hall and on the bridge. They did not mourn loudly. They carried their dead like stones in their chests. Robb rode out at the head of the combined host, gray wind trotting at his side, eyes scanning the parapets where Frey men still watched from behind fear and stone. Northmen marched behind, faces grim, anger hardened into purpose. Riverlords followed, some silent, some muttering prayers, all of them changed by what the twins had revealed. That oaths could be broken, and that survival demanded teeth. Catelyn rode close to Robb, not because she thought she could shield him from bolts now, but because she refused to let him become alone inside his own crown. She watched his profile, jaw clenched, eyes forward, and wondered how much of her boy still lived beneath the king's skin. At the edge of the courtyard, Brynden Tully paused and looked back once, eyes narrowing at the towers. "We'll be back," he muttered, as if promising the twins itself. "And next time we won't be guests." Lyn Corbray rode with a faint smile, blood still staining his cloak despite attempts to wash it. He looked pleased, as if the night had fed something in him that had been hungry for years. That hunger would be useful. It would also be dangerous. Above them, ravens lifted into the gray sky in a black flutter, carrying the story in their wings. Some flew toward Riverrun, some toward the Eyrie, some toward King's Landing where Tywin Lannister would read and tighten his fist and decide what kind of punishment the realm deserved for refusing to die properly. On a distant hill, barely visible through mist, riders watched. Lannister scouts, cloaks red smudges against gray. They turned their horses and vanished into the morning, carrying news the other way. The twins had failed. The wolf still ran. The falcon's shadow lay across the riverlands. Robb did not look back. He rode forward into a war that had changed shape in a single night, into a war where treachery no longer had the comfort of certainty, and where the Vale's steel had proven that even a planned slaughter could be made to bleed. Behind him, the gallows swayed. The river rushed. The towers watched in silence. And somewhere beyond the horizon, lions gathered their teeth for another bite. The road away from the twins felt like leaving a grave that still whispered. Behind them, the towers stood like clenched teeth over the river, and the river ran beneath them as if nothing had happened, carrying blood, carrying lies, carrying the faintest trace of music that would never be heard again. The banners on the bridge were different now, but stone remembered what it had been used for. Catelyn could feel it in her bones, a cold that did not come from weather. Robb rode at the head of the moving host with his shoulders set as if he were holding the sky up. Rain darkened his hair and ran down the angles of his face, mixing with dried blood that no amount of water could fully wash away. He had not spoken much since dawn. Kings could not afford to speak when their words might crack. Grey Wind stayed close, trotting in the churned mud beside the horses. His ears pricked, his muzzle lifted to catch scents from every hedge and ditch. He did not trust the road. He did not trust men. He trusted only movement and the certainty that teeth were sometimes the only truth. Catelyn rode close enough to see her son's knuckles whiten on the reins. She watched his jaw flex whenever the wind shifted and carried the river smell up from behind them. She wanted to touch him, to tell him to breathe, to remind him he was still alive. She did not. A king could not be soothed like a frightened boy in front of men who needed him hard. Jon Royce kept the Vale's heavy cavalry in tight order behind the Stark vanguard, the bronze runes on his armor dulled by rain. The Vale moved differently than the north, less shouting, fewer boasts, more quiet hands checking straps and spacing. They were mountains on horseback. When they rode, the world made room. Edmure Tully rode with his bandaged wrist held stiffly, his eyes burning. Fury clung to him the way damp clung to cloth. Every so often his gaze flicked backward toward the twins, and Catelyn could almost hear the words he swallowed. Hang them all. Burn it all. He was not wrong to want it. Wanting it did not make it wise. Brynden Tully ranged ahead with scouts like a man who had been born to live on the edge of danger. He returned twice with short reports. Lannister riders seen on distant hills, small bands of armed men slipping into woods, smoke rising to the west where another village had been offered to the war like meat to wolves. Tywin's eyes are open, Brynden said the second time, rain dripping from his beard. And they're moving. Robb's gaze did not shift. Let them watch, he replied. Watching doesn't feed them. Lyn Corbray laughed softly, amused by the coldness in a boy king's voice. A fine thing, he murmured. When a young wolf learns to starve a lion. Catelyn did not like the way Lyn looked at Robb, as if admiring a new blade. Admiration was sometimes only hunger wearing a prettier face. By midday they halted in the ruins of a crofter's stead. Collapsed roof, blackened beams, the stink of old smoke. Men ate hard bread and salted meat in silence. The rain eased into a fine mist. In the distance, ravens circled above fields that had once been green and now lay trampled into mud. A rider came hard from the rear, veil colors, mud to the knees, breath ragged. He slid from his horse and knelt before Jon Royce, holding out a parchment with wax crushed by haste. Jon took it, read, and his mouth tightened. What? Robb demanded, stepping close enough that Grey Wind's hackles rose. Jon handed the parchment over without ceremony. From our garrison at the Twins, he said. Robb read quickly. Catelyn watched his eyes move, watched the line of his mouth go still. Lannister envoys at the East Bank, Robb said aloud, voice flat. They came under banner to demand Walder Frey's release. His gaze lifted, wolf-bright. And they brought terms. Terms? Edmure spat. Robb's eyes narrowed. They say Tywin Lannister marches with men and engines, he said. They say the twins will be taken back and every fry in chains will be freed, by steel if not by bargain. He folded the parchment slowly. And they say I will be blamed for every death inside those towers if I do not submit. Catelyn felt her stomach knot. It was an old trick. Make the victim carry the sin. Robb looked at Jon Royce. We won't let them breathe, he said quietly. Jon nodded once. Good, he replied. Then we choose where the lion bleeds. The council tent smelled of wet wool and lamp oil and the sharp tang of men who had been too close to death to remember gentleness. Rain drummed on canvas like impatient fingers. Robb stood over the map with his cloak thrown back, as if he had no time for warmth. Grey Wind lay just outside the tent flap, head on paws, eyes half-lidded. Even resting, the dire wolf listened. Jon Royce had taken a dagger and used its point to mark roads, tapping hard enough to dent parchment. Tywin's engines cannot fly, he said. They must roll, and rolling takes roads. His dagger moved. Here, the river road. Here, the king's road. If he wants the twins, he must feed his host. If he must feed his host, he must send wagons. If he sends wagons, we take them, Lyn Corbray said, smiling faintly. Edmure leaned in, voice tight. "We take his men too," he growled. "We take their heads and we take what matters." Brynden Tully cut in, knife tip hovering over a crossing. "Tywin will bait you with anger. He always does. You don't swing at bait. You swing at the hand holding it." Robb's eyes stayed on the map. "If he marches for the twins, he expects me to rush back and defend it," Robb said. "He expects me to fight him where his engines can speak." "And if you don't?" Catelyn asked, though she knew the answer was a blade in the dark. Robb looked up, and for a heartbeat she saw Ned in him. Honor strained thin, but still there. "Then the twins holds," he said. "The Vale garrison holds. Walder Frey stays chained. And Tywin wastes days throwing men against stone while we cut his belly open elsewhere." Jon nodded approval. "You make him choose," he said. "Starve on the road, or starve at the gate." A guard shoved a kneeling Lannister scout forward. The man's red cloak had been stripped away. He looked smaller without it, a boy with mud on his face and fear in his eyes. Robb crouched until they were eye level. "Who rides with Tywin?" he asked. The scout swallowed.
Seradan Marbrand, he whispered.
And Ser Gregor Clegane. They're gathering men at..." His eyes flicked to Jon's dagger point. "Near Harrenhal. They mean to come hard." Catelyn felt her throat tighten at the name Gregor Clegane. Some monsters did not belong in stories. They belonged in nightmares. Gregor had made the Riverlands scream once. He did not need a second invitation. Jon's voice remained calm. "How many wagons?" he asked. The scout's lips trembled. 3 trains, he admitted. 1 with grain, 1 with bolts and spare bowstrings, 1 with iron chains, he swallowed. "For the portcullis." "Chains?" Edmure muttered, eyes flashing. "For our throats." Robb's gaze hardened. "Where do they pass?" he demanded. "The inn," the scout whispered. "The Crossroads. They stop there. Always. Water, fodder. Men like to think they're safe when they're near the King's Road." Brynden's knife tapped the map. "The inn at the Crossroads," he said almost to himself. "A fine place to die." Lynn Corb. Ray's smile widened. "A fine place to sing," he purred. Robb straightened. "We strike there," he decided. "We hit the wagons. We take prisoners if we can. We burn what we cannot carry." His eyes flicked to Jon Royce. "Your knights lead the charge. Heavy horse breaks their guards. Northmen sweep the flanks. I want it fast." Jon Royce nodded once. "Fast," he agreed. "And controlled." Edmure clenched his bandaged hand, jaw tight. "And what of the twins?" he demanded. "What if Tywin throws his engines before we can?" "Then the twins bleeds him," Robb said. "And every day he bleeds there is a day he cannot bleed the North." Catelyn watched her son and felt the terrible pride of a mother whose boy had become something sharper than she ever wanted. He was learning to make war the way Tywin did, by breaking the body that held the crown, not by chasing banners. Robb looked at the kneeling scout one last time. "You'll live," he said. "For now. You'll write a letter to Tywin Lannister. You'll tell him the young wolf thanks him for naming where his wagons travel." The scout's eyes widened, horrified. Robb's mouth tightened. "And you'll tell him the Vale has learned how to hunt," he added softly. Outside the tent, the rain kept falling, patient as fate. Men always believed the Crossroads belonged to them. They believed it because roads met there, because kings had slept there once, because the inn's walls offered the illusion of shelter. In war, illusions were a kind of suicide. The wagons rolled in under torchlight, wheels sucking at mud. Guards in red cloaks cursed the rain and warmed their hands over small fires, muttering about wolves and bandits. They were tired. They were hungry. They thought the Vale's banners were far away and that the young wolf was busy licking wounds at the twins. Jon Royce watched them from the tree-lean, bronze armor darkened, his horse steady beneath him. Around him, Vale knights sat silent, lances angled, breath held. Northmen waited in the brush with axes and bows, faces smeared with mud to kill shine. Robb Stark crouched with them, eyes fixed on the wagons, gray wind a black shape beside him. Now, Jon whispered, and it was enough. The Vale crashed out of the trees like a cliff collapsing. Hoofs thundered, mud sprayed, lances struck shields and bodies with sickening force. A red-cloaked guard tried to raise his spear. A warhorse hit him full in the chest and turned him into a rag doll flung across the road. Another guard screamed as a lance punched through his shoulder and pinned him to a wagon side. The camp exploded into panic. Men stumbled from fires, reaching for swords, tripping over barrels, cursing the dark. Robb surged in from the flank with his Northmen, steel flashing. He did not shout. His face was a mask of hard purpose. Gray wind sprang ahead, teeth bared, and tore into the chaos with the joy of a creature made for killing. A horse reared, eyes rolling white, as gray wind snapped at its throat. The rider fell, and Robb's blade ended him before he could crawl. A Lannister archer tried to draw. An axe took his hand off and sent bow and fingers spinning into mud. Lyn Corbray rode through it laughing, crimson cloak flying, sword turning torchlight into quicksilver. He cut a man down, then another, his movements almost graceful. Catelyn's words about guest right and murder and law would have meant nothing to Lyn. For Lyn, battle was its own religion. Chains! A Lannister sergeant shouted, voice cracking. Save the chains! A mule kicked wildly as men tried to haul iron bundles away. The mule toppled a lantern. Flame licked spilled oil, then leapt hungrily onto a wagon wheel. In seconds the wagon was burning, wood popping, smoke rising into rain that could not smother it quickly enough. Jon Royce drove his horse straight into the knot of men at the chain wagon. His sword rose and fell with blunt, efficient strokes. Burn it, he ordered. Leave them nothing. A guard lunged at him from behind. Jon's shield caught the blade, turned it aside. A Vale knight speared the guard through the back and dragged him off like a fish on a hook. Robb fought his way toward the inn yard, eyes searching. Prisoners, he barked at last, voice hoarse. I want one with a name. A man in better mail than the rest tried to flee toward the stables. Gray wind hit him from the side, dragging him down. Robb arrived a heartbeat later and pressed his sword to the man's throat. Name, Robb demanded. The man spat mud. Ser Harry's SWFT's nephew. He choked, trying to sound grand through fear. I'm not grand enough, Lyn Corbray said, appearing like a red shadow. He grabbed the man by the hair and yanked his head back. But alive enough, he added, as if that were amusing. Robb's eyes stayed cold. Tell me who commanded these wagons, he said. The man's breath hitched.
Seradan Marbrand, whispered.
He's at Harrenhal with Ser Gregor Clegane. Tywin wants the twins. He wants the old man freed. Frey freed. Jon Royce's jaw tightened. And what else does Tywin want? He asked. The prisoner's eyes darted. He's promised the north to someone, the man blurted. A Bolton. Roose Bolton. He. The name fell into the mud like poison. Robb went very still. For a moment, the crackle of fire and the screams around them faded, and Catelyn's son looked like a boy hearing a truth he had feared and refused to name. Bolton, Robb repeated softly. The prisoner nodded rapidly, tears mixing with rain. I heard it, he whispered. I swear I heard it. Warden, Dreadfort. He said the wolf would be. Robb's blade lifted slightly. Enough, he said, and his voice was quiet now, dangerous in its restraint. Jon Royce looked at Robb across flame and rain. We take what we came for, he said, and we move. This road will be full of lions by dawn. Robb nodded once, eyes still fixed somewhere far beyond the burning wagons, fixed on the idea of betrayal wearing a pink cloak. They stripped the wagons fast, taking grain, taking bolts, taking what they could carry. Then they set the rest to flame, making a beacon of Tywin's hunger. As they withdrew into the trees, the inn behind them burned and the Crossroads screamed. And in the dark between two roads, the war learned a new shape. The lion was not the only enemy a wolf had to fear. Roose Bolton did not hurry. He rode through a village that had already paid the war's price. Ash drifting in the air like gray snow. The huts were blackened shells. A dead crow hung from a fence post, its feathers slick with rain. Somewhere, a child watched from behind a broken cart, eyes wide and silent, as if sound itself might draw death. Bolton's men moved behind him in neat lines, pink cloaks damp and heavy, their discipline unnerving in a land where most armies had become mobs. Roose kept his helm off. The air touched his pale face and did not change it. A Lannister rider waited at the road bend, red cloak bright against ruin, a sealed scroll in hand. He sat his horse like a man trying not to look afraid. Roose reined in and regarded him the way a man regards a tool. "You have something for me," Roose said. The rider bowed in the saddle. "From Lord Tywin Lannister," he said, and held the scroll out with both hands. Roose took it, broke the wax, and read without expression. The words were formal, the meaning blunt. The Red Wedding had failed, but the need remained. The war needed a new knife. Roose's eyes lifted to the rider. "Tell your lord I will come," he said. The rider swallowed. "He asks for proof," the man ventured, voice tight. He asks that your loyalty be demonstrated." Roose's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, more an acknowledgement of a rule. "Loyalty is always demonstrated," he said softly. "The question is only how much blood one must spill for men to believe it." The rider's throat bobbed. Roose looked past him, down the ruined road. "There is a Stark supply camp 3 miles east," he said, voice calm. "A small one. Wagons. Grain. Spare arrows. Boys guarding it who still think banners mean protection." He turned his pale gaze back to the rider. "My men will take it tonight." The rider's eyes widened. "Tonight?" Roose nodded once. "And in the morning," he continued, "send ravens. Tell your lord the wolves bleed even without feasts." The rider bowed again, too quickly. "Yes, my lord." As the man turned his horse and rode hard, Roose Bolton watched him go, unblinking. There was no triumph in his face, no joy, only the patient inevitability of a man who had decided which side of the world would survive. Behind him, one of his captains leaned close. "If the young wolf wins," the captain murmured, voice uneasy, "the North will never. The young wolf will not win," Roose said, and the certainty in his tone was colder than any threat. He glanced toward the child behind the cart, saw the small face watching, and felt nothing at all. "He has too many honest men and too few honest days." He nudged his horse forward. His men followed. The ashes drifted. The village stayed silent. And a new betrayal began to take shape, quiet as a knife sliding into a sheath. Harrenhal loomed behind Tywin Lannister's pavilion like a curse made of stone. Even in rain, its black towers seemed to drink light. The air around it felt wrong. Too heavy, too old, as if the castle itself remembered every scream it had ever held and wanted more. Inside the pavilion, Tywin stood over a map table, hands clasped behind his back. The gold lion on his breastplate gleamed despite the damp. When Roose Bolton was brought in, Tywin did not look up at once. He finished reading a report, placed it down, and only then lifted his eyes. Roose knelt. It was a performance, and both men knew it. "Lord Bolton," Tywin said at last, voice mild, "you were meant to deliver me a dead king." Roose's pale gaze remained steady. "Plans fail," he replied. "Opportunity remains." Ser Adam Marbrand stood at Tywin's right, expression tight, eyes flicking over Roose like a man measuring whether a snake had fangs. In the back, Qyburn hovered with quiet interest, as if watching surgery. "The twins," Tywin said. "An embarrassment." Roose did not flinch. "An obstacle," he corrected. "Embarrassments are for pride. Obstacles are for removal." Tywin's mouth tightened slightly. "Then remove it." Roose's voice stayed soft. "The Vale changed the terms," he said. "They brought discipline where there was meant to be drunken panic. They put shields where there were meant to be throats." His eyes narrowed a fraction. But discipline can be broken. Shields can be turned. Wolves can be made to bite each other. Tywin's gaze sharpened. And you offer to do this, he said, not as a question. Roose inclined his head. I offer to finish what was begun, he said. Not in a hall with music, but in a war with hunger. Tywin walked around the table slowly, like a lion circling a wounded animal. Why? He asked simply. Roose's answer came without emotion. Because Robb Stark is young, he said. Because the North bleeds for a boy with a crown and crowns crack. Because the Riverlands are ash. Because the Vale will tire when its dead begin to pile. He paused, then added, as if speaking of weather, because I prefer to be on the winning side. Tywin stopped beside an open chest of gold. Coins glinted up at him in torchlight like small eyes. And what do you prefer to be paid? Tywin asked. Roose lifted his gaze. Warden of the North, he said. Legitimacy for my bastard son. Lands. His voice did not waver, and the understanding that when the war ends, the Dreadfort's banner will fly without question.
Se Adam Marbrand's moat dictanat.
A high price for a traitor, he muttered. Roose's eyes flicked to him, calm. Traitors are only traitors while they lose, Roose said. When they win, they are founders of new orders. Tywin studied him for a long moment. Then he reached into the chest and lifted a handful of coins, letting them slide through his fingers back into gold with a soft, relentless sound. You will have your price, Tywin said, if you deliver your proof. Roose bowed his head slightly. You will have it, he replied. Tywin leaned in, voice lowering. This time, he said, I do not want chaos. I want certainty. Roose's mouth twitched. Certainty is a myth, he said, but I can offer you something close. Tywin straightened. Robb Stark is striking my wagons, he said. He thinks hunger will weaken me. It will, Roose said softly, if you let it. Tywin's eyes hardened. I will not, he said. I will take the twins back. I will free Walder Frey, and then I will make the Riverlands remember what happens when men refuse to die properly. Roose rose from his kneel with Tywin's permission, as if standing were a reward. Then let me open the wolf from within, he said. Give me leave to move among his rear camps. Give me a seal that makes men believe I still serve him. His pale eyes glinted faintly, and when he turns his face toward you, I will put my knife between his ribs. Tywin's gaze held him, cold and measuring. Do it, Tywin said at last, and fail, Lord Bolton, and there will be no North for you to rule. Roose bowed, accepting the threat like a familiar cloak. Understood, he said. Outside, Harrenhal's towers watched in rain. Inside, lions and leeches negotiated the realm's next round. Petyr Baelish arrived at the gates of the moon as if he had never been afraid of mountains. He rode through the courtyard with his cloak neat despite travel, his mockingbird clasp bright against dark cloth, his smile in place as if smiles were armor he had learned to polish. Snow dusted the stone steps, the air bit at exposed skin. Petyr breathed it in like wine. Anya Waynwood waited with Nestor Royce and Maester Coleman, guards arrayed behind them in silver helms. They did not greet Petyr with warmth. They greeted him with attention, sharp, assessing, the way men greeted a blade offered hilt first. My lords, Petyr said pleasantly, dismounting with ease. My lady. His eyes lingered on Anya with that practiced charm that pretended respect and calculated weakness. You have been busy. We have been necessary, Anya replied, voice even. Petyr's gaze flicked to Robert Arryn, bundled in furs near the door, eyes wide and frightened. And there's my sweet lord, Petyr cooed softly. Lord Robert Arryn. You look well. Robert stared at him as if staring at a stranger in a dream. His hands tightened on his cloak. Mother? He whispered, voice thin. Petyr's smile softened. Soon, he promised. Maester Coleman shifted uneasily. Lord Baelish, he said. You come with authority from the Iron Throne, Petyr finished. producing a sealed parchment with the flourish of a man presenting a gift. Letters of passage, requests for counsel, and, I fear, questions. His eyes lifted toward the barred window above. In the dim behind iron, a shadow moved. Lysa Arryn watching. Anya did not take the parchment immediately. "Speak your purpose plainly," she said. Peter's smile widened a fraction, as if amused by her refusal to be sweet. "Plainly?" he echoed. "Very well. The realm is in uproar. The twins has become a scandal that even the gods have heard. The Vale has ridden, and in riding, has made enemies with men who have long memories and sharp purses." He spread his hands. "I am here to offer a path back to safety." Nestor Royce's mouth tightened. "Safety," he said, and the word held disdain. Peter looked at him with mild sympathy. "Safety is a practical word," he said. "Honor is a lovely one, but honor does not stop sieges." Anya's gaze did not shift. "Do you call what happened at the twins honorable?" she asked. Peter's eyes widened with perfect, rehearsed shock. "Gods, no," he said. "It was monstrous." His voice softened. "And the crown is furious." It was a lie shaped like truth. Cersei Lannister's fury did not mean justice. It meant control. Peter continued, voice smooth. "The Vale's involvement makes it complicit in rebellion," he said gently, as if explaining whether to a child. "But complicit can be forgiven with the right gestures, with the right leadership." "And you think that leadership is you?" Nestor Royce said bluntly. Peter laughed lightly, as if delighted by the accusation. "I think leadership is stability," he replied. "And stability, my lords, often requires marriage." Anya's face remained calm. "To Lysa Arryn," she said. Peter bowed his head, smile polite. "To Lysa Arryn," he confirmed. "If the Lady Regent is restored, guided, aided, loved, the Vale can withdraw its banners without shame. It can claim it acted in confusion under the pressure of grief. It can return to being what it has always been." He glanced around the courtyard. "High, safe, untouched." Anya's voice turned colder. "Untouched is what the Riverlands were before the Lions," she said. "Look where that got them." Peter's smile did not crack, but something in his eyes hardened. "And look where touching the war has gotten the Vale," he said softly. "Dead knights, broken oaths, the crown's suspicion." Robert Arryn's thin voice rose again. "Mother," he whispered, frightened. Peter looked up at the barred window, and his smile turned tender in a way that made Maester Coleman's stomach twist. "My lady," Peter called softly. "It's Peter. I've come." The shadow behind the bars stilled. Anya's hand lifted slightly. "You will be housed," she told Peter. "You will be watched, and you will not see Lady Lysa Arryn alone until the council agrees." Peter bowed as if the restriction were a compliment. "As you wish," he said, but as he followed the guards inside, his eyes flicked once to Robert Arryn. Furs, fear, fragile power, and in that flicker was the truth. Petyr Baelish had not come to save anyone. He had come to take. They allowed Peter 10 minutes. Anya Waynwood insisted on it, as if time itself could be measured and controlled like coin. 2 guards stood outside the chamber door. Maester Coleman hovered nearby with his head bowed, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles shone. He did not like any of this. He liked peace, books, and the illusion that men could be healed. Inside, Lysa Arryn sat on the edge of her bed like a woman waiting for judgment. Candlelight trembled. The small fire crackled softly, too weak to warm the stone. When Peter stepped in, her breath hitched. For a heartbeat, she looked like the girl she had once been, desperate and hopeful, ready to believe a smile meant salvation. "Peter," she whispered. "My lady," Peter replied, voice velvet. He crossed the room slowly, as if approaching a frightened animal. "Lysa." At the sound of her name, she crumbled. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She reached for him with shaking hands, and he took them, pressing his lips to her fingers as if devotion were something he could conjure with touch. "They took him from me," she sobbed. They took Robert. I know, Petyr murmured, and his tone held just enough outrage to feel like protection. I came as soon as I heard. Lysa clutched him, burying her face in his shoulder. Petyr's hand stroked her hair with practiced gentleness. His eyes, over her shoulder, took in the room. Barred window, guarded door, letters scattered on the table like dead birds. They say I'm mad, Lysa whispered, voice muffled. They say. They are afraid, Petyr said softly. Afraid of you, afraid of what you know, afraid of what you might do if you were allowed to be a mother instead of a prisoner. Lysa shuddered. I only wanted him safe, she whispered. And you were right to want it, Petyr said. He pulled back just enough to look into her face. Lysa, look at me. She did, eyes red-rimmed and pleading. They have dragged the Vale into a war, Petyr said gently. A war the Vale cannot win without bleeding itself dry. They have made enemies who will not forget. And all in your son's name. His thumb brushed her cheek, wiping a tear. In your son's name, Lysa. Imagine what that does to him. From beyond the door, a faint cough. Robert Arryn's small, frightened sound, carried through stone. Lysa flinched as if struck. Robert, she whispered, anguish twisting. Petyr leaned in, voice lowering. You can fix this, he said. You can be restored. You can be seen as the rightful regent again. The lords will accept it if you give them a bridge to retreat across. His gaze flicked to the table where a silver ring sat on cloth, a mockingbird stamped into its face. Marry me. Lysa stared at the ring as if it were a miracle. Marry you, she breathed. I will protect you, Petyr promised. I will protect Robert. I will smooth the realm's anger. I will speak to Tywin Lannister. I will speak to the crown. His smile warmed. And you will no longer be alone. Alone. That word was the hook. It always had been. Lysa's hands trembled as she reached toward the ring, but her eyes flicked up, sharp for a heartbeat. And the Vale, she whispered. They rode. They have men in the Riverlands. They must be recalled, Petyr said, voice gentle as a lullaby. Not with shame, with necessity. You issue the order in Robert's name, his health, his safety, the Vale's stability. You bring your knights home. His eyes held hers. If you do not, the crown will call the Vale traitor. Tywin will march, and your son will grow up under siege. Lysa's breath hitched. Fear flooded her. They will kill him, she whispered. They will try, Petyr said, unless you act. Lysa's fingers curled around the ring. She looked at Petyr as if he were the only solid thing in a world that kept falling away. She began. Petyr's eyes softened, and his voice dropped into something intimate and coaxing. You are not a monster, Lysa, he murmured. You are a mother. He kissed her forehead. Let me help you be one. Lysa closed her eyes, tears spilling again. Petyr Baelish's hand rested lightly on her shoulder, steady as a knife resting in a sheath. Outside, the guard's shadows shifted beneath the door. Time moved, counted in heartbeats and breath, and somewhere far away, in muddy fields, wolf and falcon bled, while a mockingbird taught a grieving woman how to sing the song he wanted. Harrenhal was the kind of castle that made a man believe in curses. Its walls rose like black cliffs. Its towers stabbed the sky, broken teeth from some ancient bite. Even at a distance, it seemed to pull heat from the air and replace it with a cold that smelled of old smoke and older death. Robb refused to camp too close. He had learned not to put his men under the shadow of things that had killed too many kings and too many hopes. They watched from a tree line, cloaks pulled tight, horses held quiet. Lanterns moved along the battlements in slow loops. Patrols. Men's voices drifted faintly over the walls, tired, careless. Harrenhal always made men feel safe because it was too big to imagine falling. That was its trick. Brynden Tully crouched with a hand on the earth, eyes narrowed. Lannister patrols are thin, he murmured. Too many men out hunting food. Tywin's host eats like a beast. And beasts can be led, Jon Royce replied. Robb watched the gate, jaw tight. "We can't siege it," he said. "Not with Tywin moving. Not with the twins needing men. Not with Roose Bolton." His mouth tightened at the name, refusing to say more. Jon's gaze slid to him. "Then we don't siege," he said. "We make it bleed." Robb nodded once. "Foragers," he said. "Wagons. Patrols. Everything that leaves those walls dies." Lyn Corbray lounged near a small fire covered by cloaks to hide flame. He looked delighted by the darkness. "A hunting season," he murmured, "and lions are fat prey." Grey Wind was low to the ground, staring at Harrenhal's gate as if the stone itself offended him. His ears flicked at every distant sound. He did not fear the castle. Wolves did not fear stone. Wolves feared traps, and Harrenhal was a trap made of walls. A raven arrived, flapping wetly, landing on Robb's forearm with a sharp claw. The bird's legs bore a small strip of parchment. Robb unrolled it, eyes moving quickly. Caitlin, who had been kept behind the line for safety, edged closer enough to see his face change. "What?" she asked. Robb's jaw clenched. "The twins," he said. "Tywin's vanguard probed the east bank again. And," he swallowed, "and someone attacked one of our rear supply camps last night." Caitlin's heart thudded. "Who?" Robb's eyes lifted, and the cold in them made her stomach sink. "Bolton men," he said. The words hung in the air like smoke. Jon Royce's gaze hardened. "Proof?" he asked. Robb shook the raven slip once. "Bodies left," he said. "Wagons burned. Pink cloth found on a spear shaft." His voice went rough. "It's not enough to declare him traitor to every northern lord, but it's enough to know what direction the knife comes from." Brynden Tully spat into the dirt. "Leech," he muttered. "I knew it." Robb stared at Harrenhal as if the Black Towers might answer. "Tywin wants the twins," he said. "Bolton wants my back." He looked at Jon. "We hit Marbrand and Clegane hard. We make Tywin bleed now, before he and Bolton coordinate." Jon nodded onk. "Then we choose a field," he said, "and we make sure the lion walks into it." Robb's hand tightened on the raven slip until it crumpled. "And if Bolton keeps striking my rear," he added softly, "I'll have to cut him out." Caitlin saw the tremor in her son's control and realized what the war was doing, teaching him to carve away parts of his own house to keep the rest alive. Harrenhal's lanterns kept moving along the battlements, indifferent. In the dark, the wolf and the falcon began to decide which enemy to kill first. The ford was a simple place. Stones under shallow water, reeds bent by wind, mud that sucked at boots. It had no banners, no songs, no history worth remembering. War chose such places because war loved the ordinary. It loved turning common ground into slaughter. Gregor Clegane rode into the ford like a god of ruin, black armor slick with mist, his horse enormous beneath him. Lannister men followed, red cloaks bright against gray morning. They moved with the brutal confidence of men who had burned villages and never been punished for it. They expected frightened small folk. They expected scattered wolves. They did not expect a mountain's worth of steel to fall on them from the left. Jon Royce's heavy cavalry hit like thunder made flesh. Lances lowered. The first impact crushed the Lannister front rank as if it were straw. Men screamed and vanished beneath hooves. Horses reared, slipping on wet stones, eyes rolling as they collided with bodies and steel. Robb surged from the right bank with Northmen shouting, Grey Wind a black blur beside him. The dire wolf leapt at a horse's hind leg, dragging it down. Rider and mount toppled into the water with a splash that turned instantly red. Arrows hissed from the riverbank. Vale bowmen and northern archers both, their shots measured, disciplined. A Lannister man's throat opened. Another's eye vanished behind a shaft. The ford filled with bodies so quickly the water began to run sluggish, clogged by flesh and armor. Gregor Clegane bellowed, a sound more beast than man, and swung his great sword in a wide arc that split a knight's helm like a melon. The knight fell without a sound, armor sinking, hands twitching once like a dying insect. Jon Royce saw the black giant and did not flinch. He spurred forward, pushing his men to close the gap, shields raised. "Do not face him alone," he roared. "3 at least." Lyn Corbray ignored the advice like a challenge. He darted in, crimson cloak snapping, blade flashing. He struck at Gregor's horse first, cutting the beast's flank, drawing a shocked scream from the animal. Gregor's head snapped toward him, eyes burning behind visor slits. "Come then," Lyn shouted, grinning like a madman. Gregor swung. Lyn barely slipped aside. The great sword struck water, sending a spray up like shattered glass. The force alone knocked Lyn off balance. A lesser man would have fallen. Lyn danced back, laughing breathlessly, as if nearly dying was a joke. Robb did not waste time on Gregor's pride. He drove into the Lannister flank, cutting down men trying to form a line. "Push them," he shouted. "Back into the water." The Vale shield wall advanced behind their cavalry like a moving cliff, shoving Lannister men toward the ford's deepest part where panic made them clumsy. Men stumbled, slipped, drowned under the weight of their own armor. Screams turned to gurgles. The river accepted them without judgment. Gregor Clegane tried to rally, roaring orders, killing anyone who faltered. He was too big, too violent, too used to men breaking before him. They did not break. A Vale knight took a blow meant for Jon Royce and died with his ribs crushed. But 2 more knights rammed their shields into Gregor's horse, forcing it sideways on the slick stones. The horse screamed and stumbled. Gregor swore, yanking the reins, trying to keep the beast upright. Grey Wind saw the stumble and lunged. The direwolf hit the horse's throat. Teeth sank in. The horse screamed again, a horrible, choking sound. Gregor hacked down with his greatsword at the wolf. Grey Wind sprang back at the last instant, the blade cutting only mist and spray. Robb's heart stuttered. "Grey Wind!" he shouted, and fury ripped through him like fire. He drove forward, aiming not at Gregor's armor but at the straps, the joints, the places steel needed flesh to move. His blade skated off black plate, sparked, bit into leather. Gregor turned toward him, slow and terrible. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to black steel and gray eyes behind slits. Then Jon Royce's lance struck Gregor's horse again, and the beast finally went down. Gregor hit the water with a splash that shook the ford. For an instant, the mountain was not a god. He was a man in too much armor, struggling to rise in a river that did not care how many villages he had burned. Vale knights surged in, shields slamming, swords stabbing for gaps. Gregor roared, swinging wildly, crushing a man's shoulder with a backhand blow that snapped bone like dry wood. Lyn Corbray darted in again, not laughing now. He drove his blade into the gap beneath Gregor's arm, where black plate met leather. The strike did not kill. It did not even slow Gregor much, but it made him bleed. Gregor's roar turned to a scream of pure rage. Robb seized the moment. "Now!" he bellowed. 3 men hit Gregor at once. Shield to face, spear to thigh, sword to the back of the knee. Gregor staggered, knee buckling. He did not fall. He was too stubborn to fall. But he was surrounded now, pinned by bodies and steel and water. A horn sounded from the far bank. Lannister retreat. Their men began to pull back, dragging wounded, leaving dead. The ford became a muddied graveyard. Gregor Clegane, bleeding in the river, glared through his visor at the wolf and the boy king who refused to die. And for the first time in his monstrous life, the mountain looked uncertain. After the battle, the world always went quiet in a way that felt wrong. The mist thinned. The river kept running, washing its stones, trying to scrub away what men had poured into it. Bodies lay in mud, red cloaks dark and heavy, faces turned toward gray sky as if waiting for an answer that would never come. Robb stood among the aftermath with his sword down, shoulders sagging for the first time all day. Gray Wind pressed close, wet fur bristling, muzzle lifting to sniff at corpses with wary disgust. The dire wolf had taken a cut along his shoulder, nothing deep, but enough to make Robb's stomach twist every time he saw the blood on black fur. Jon Royce moved through his men, checking wounds with blunt efficiency. A Vale knight knelt beside a fallen comrade and closed the man's eyes with a gloved hand. No prayers, just the small gesture of respect. Brynden Tully came to Robb with a strip of parchment in hand, rain-soaked and smeared with mud. "Caught this on a rider," he said. "Tried to slip south." Robb took it and read. His face did not change. Something behind his eyes did. He handed it to Catelyn. The seal on the parchment was a flayed man. Catelyn's fingers went numb around it. She read the cramped words, each line another turn of a knife. Troop movements, supply routes, the position of the twins' garrison. The planned hour Tywin's vanguard would probe again. And at the bottom, cold as winter, "The wolf survives because he trusts. Remind him what trust buys." Her breath hitched. "Roose," she whispered. Edmure Tully swore viciously. "Hang him," he spat. "Flay him with his own damn knives." Lyn Corbray wiped blood from his blade with a red cloak and smiled faintly. "I volunteer," he murmured. Robb stared toward Harrenhal's distant towers, black against the sky. "It's proof," he said at last, voice rough. "Not rumor. Proof." Jon Royce's jaw tightened. "Then you can name him," he said. Robb's hands clenched. "If I name him and half the North doubts, I split my own army," he said. "If I hesitate, he keeps cutting my rear." His eyes flicked to his mother. What would father do? Catelyn's throat tightened. She wanted to say Ned would call the banners and ride north and face betrayal openly with honor and fury. But Ned was dead because honor had been used against him. "Your father would demand proof," she said softly. "You have it. Now," she swallowed. "Now you must be faster than honor." Robb's face twisted as if she had struck him. Then his eyes hardened. "Then we trap him," he said. Brynden's brows lifted. "How?" Robb looked at Jon Royce. "We send a raven," he said. "A command in my name. Summon Roose Bolton to me. Tell him I need his counsel. Tell him I will meet him under banner at a place he cannot resist." His mouth tightened. "And we put Vale riders in the woods and Northmen behind the hill, and when the leech comes to feed." Jon's gaze held Robb's, approval grim. "We cut it off," he said. A raven perched on a fallen hill. Nearby and cocked its head, watching as if amused by men pretending they could control fate. Catelyn folded the parchment carefully, as if neatness could contain its poison. She looked at her son, the boy who had once run through Winterfell's yard with a wooden sword, laughing, and saw a king learning to set traps with the patience of a lion. Somewhere behind them, Tywin Lannister would be reading reports of the ford and cursing the cost. Somewhere in the Riverlands, Roose Bolton rode with his pale calm, believing himself invisible. Robb Stark lifted his head, rain on his lashes, and gave the order that would decide whether his war died from enemies outside or betrayal within. "Send the raven," he said, "and tell Roose Bolton his king wants to see him."